So I was just thinking about corporate governance, as one does think about corporate governance. And I was thinking about what exactly it is and the best analogy to think about this. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Professor Dave Masek. I teach about business, innovation, strategy, things like that. And corporate governance does come up in terms of how we're thinking about them. And the analogy that I often think about, or something that is pretty good, is thinking about the classroom or kindergarten classroom. If you think about a kindergarten classroom, it's a complete nightmare, right? The whole thing is a complete nightmare. You've got a bunch of 4 and 5-year-olds and they're screaming around. They don't want to do anything. If you've ever been around 4 or 5-year-olds, they're like really, really, scatterbrained. No offense to 4 or 5-year-olds, but they tend to be a little bit fun to be around and interesting. And then you got this teacher who, sometimes is just fresh out of school, and they don't exactly want to be there either because it's a challenging thing to actually do. Not everybody wants to do that, right? So that's the problem that you face, is that how do you get this collective of people and individuals that are together at different skill levels, different competencies, and have them actually accomplish something that looks meaningful. If you've ever seen a kindergarten classroom, it is not chaos. It's actually really orderly. The teacher does a really good job. The students do a fantastic job. They pay attention, they listen. And that seems like counterintuitive if you've ever, thought about that, right? And what is actually going on is that there's actually a lot of governance that's going on that is pretty explicit. That is fascinating to think about, right? The teacher has a contract. That contract makes sure that they stay there for the whole year. And then at the end of it, they can, go do something else if they want to. Generally, teachers fulfill that contract. It's for a certain set wage that allows them to do this. How is this wage negotiated? It's negotiated by a set of collective individuals that, that is somebody else that sort of sits down and thinks what is an appropriate wage. They look to see what other people are doing. That's the market. They're seeing what other people are paying at, and given the particular, thing that they're doing, they sort of charge that particular wage, or they set that particular wage, and it doesn't change that much from year to year because that market is pretty relatively stable. There is a lot of supply and demand in that market. There is a lot of people that are doing the kindergarten, teaching gig. So lots of people understand what that the value is. And then if you look at the students are not running around in sort of chaos, is because that there's somebody that's leading them, right? So this is, sometimes we think about this as a principal agent problem. This is the teacher is a principal. You've got these agents. These are people that are actually, doing the work, and the principal can't, or the principal is somewhat of a bad analogy, but like the teacher can't monitor everything all the time, and so they are doing everything in the interest of accomplishing things in the classroom, right? And some of the students want to be there, but some of them don't. And so how do you ensure that they're going to do that? You have to have different incentives and different mechanisms, they call them mechanisms, to ensure that they want to be there and they're actually doing their job and accomplishing that particular task. The students are actually accomplishing the task. And if you look at it, it works reasonably well, not perfectly, but it works reasonably well over the long run. If you were to look at this and across many different individuals, there is something that's being done. And this problem, the analogy with an organization, with a larger corporate organization, you might think about something that's making money, is that it's actually easier with something that's actually making money, because what that particular thing is. Teaching is a little amorphous. It's challenging in the sense with the corporation. They have to figure out what is going to be the thing that's going to generate money. What is that thing that generates the money in the long run? But they understand that the sort of the profit or the excess value that's being generated, that's a good thing. That's sort of set there. So hopefully this helps in terms of understanding. I know it's not a perfect analogy, but it's an analogy that I think works to understand and think about what exactly is corporate governance and how that might actually work. And it's really thinking about all of the contractual obligations that they have, thinking about how do you ensure that people collectively work together in a big group, right? That's all organizations really are. It's just a big group of people that have decided to work together at some people say one problem or one sort of thing, but it's not quite that way. Something that we agree upon that is pretty useful, and we figure out how to work towards that particular thing. So it's thinking about all the contractual obligations, thinking about the mechanisms to ensure that people are not, self-interested, right? Like, you think about students, sometimes they just want to go for a nap. It's not the appropriate time to go for a nap. So then you have to think about how to do this. And I like the analogy of the classroom, particularly with young kids, because it removes a lot of the weaponry, I think, or, the punitive nature that is sort of built into in the discussion with, with corporate governance. It's you don't want to treat people that way, right? Like, you want to treat people in a kind and generous way and think about how to incentivize them to ensure that they work in the appropriate way. So it's things like monitoring, having the right contracts in mind, making sure that the incentives are aligned to the best of your ability, making sure that, that there is good leadership that is there. All of those things are incredibly important to ensure that you've got great corporate governance. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day.